Hello students, I'm Himani Sharma, your educator. I warmly welcome you all on our YouTube platform, where we in today's video are going to talk about another important Indian poet. Who are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about Toru Dutt, right? So before directly jumping on to जो facts हमारे लिए important है with regards to UGC NET paper to English literature, I would try to tell you all about, what are the factual information जिसके साथ आपको acquaint करना चाहिए खुद को, and also where was she born, so on and so forth, right? So she was one such person because of the fact that she passed away at a very young age. बहुत ही कम उम्र में she passed away. That's why she was given the title of being Indian Keats. Indian Keats. ठीक है, तो जिस तरीके से इफ वी ट्राई टू रीड ब्रिटिश लिटरेचर, स्पेशली उसमें जो रोमांटिक एज आती है, वी सी जॉन कीट्स एज अ प्रेवलेंट राइटर देयर, राइट, हु वाज वेरी प्रोमिनेंट उस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पे बिकॉज ही वाज राइटिंग ओड्स, करेक्ट, बट ही वाज वन सच राइटर हु बिकॉज ऑफ हिज हेल्थ कंडीशन ऑल्सो पास्ड अवे एट अ वेरी यंग एज. तो उस सिमिलैरिटी को ड्रॉ करने के लिए तोरू दत्त जो हैं उनको भी शी इज नोन बाय सच टाइटल. Now, let's just take a look at her picture here. She was born in 1856, right, in the Bengal Presidency, and 1877 में she passed away. So, Toru Dutt और Tarulata Dutt. Now, one such important thing is there कि ये जो Dutt family album है, whenever you try to read from any book which concerns Indian literature, you need to make sure that there are many people who were, from this Dutt family. चाहे हम माइकल मधुसूदन दत्त की बात करते हैं, तोरू दत्त की बात करते हैं, राइट, वी हैव डिफरेंट पीपल हु वर. रमेश चंद्र दत्त, राइट, ही वाज वन सच पर्सन हु वाज ट्रांसलेटिंग सेवरल मिथ्स एंड लेजेंड्स फ्रॉम द रामायण एंड द महाभारत, correct? So we see that these people, even if they were having influence from the British, right, they were trying to pronounce their name. अगर माइकल मधुसूदन दत्त, तो the name itself here is trying to suggest that the name has something English in it, है ना, Michael, and Madhusudan is referring to the Indian part. So these were people who were Anglo-Indian. English भी थे, right, in their ways of thinking, moving ahead in life, right, in their poetry as well, but we see them being Indian in their nature as well. वही चीज हमें तोरू दत्त में भी देखने के लिए मिलेगी, that in her poetry we will see that she time and again will try to write some sorts of things जहाँ पे Indianness would be present in her works. She would be very much writing about the folklore, the legends that are there, right? She was an Indian poet born in Bengal province in 1856 to the well-known Ram Bagan Dutt family, right? So, हमारी जो 19th century है, that is very much important, especially the Dutt family, right? Her book of poetry named Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan is a collection of translation and adaptations from Sanskrit literature. Remember, I am telling you, even though she was belonging from an Anglo-Indian family, she was one such person जिनको अपनी Indianness पे proud था, and she would write about the Indian things. And not just Indian things, in the upcoming slides, in the upcoming pointers as well, हम लोग देखेंगे that Toru Dutt would be one such person who will also be using the language French. Right? She will be writing in French as well as she is writing in English, right? And this particular book, Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan, this was published posthumously in 1882. Posthumously क्या होता है? When any person they pass away, they die, तो उनके बाद जब उनके works को हम लोग publish कराते हैं, उन works को हम posthumously published works बोलते हैं, right? Her first novel, Les Journées de Mademoiselle de Arvers, which translates to The Diary of Mademoiselle de Arvers, was written in French. So I told you already that she was one such writer who was writing in French as well as in the English language, right? She also started to write another novel, Bianca, जो कि आपका UGC NET का previous year question है, right? This particular work, Bianca or the Young Spanish Maiden, which remains incomplete. So कुछ भी writers, because these are the ones who are minor writers from the beginnings of the ages, right? If we try to talk about the Indian poetry since, right? तो इनके कुछ जो important works हैं, which are incomplete, etc. You need to remember those things, those small facts. तो जो Bianca और the Young Spanish Maiden था, this particular work was incomplete, right? Because उनकी डेथ हो गई थी. Now what are the themes? कुछ themes के बारे में I already told you that she tries to talk about and incorporate Indian mythology. ठीक है, Indian myths को लेती हैं ये and history. She writes Indian history, she talks about that because she is born in India and she is trying to maintain that crux in her. Remarkable fusion of Indian and Western poetic traditions, detailed descriptions of landscape, flora and fauna. तो हमें बहुत अच्छी इनके works में we will see the scenery. Predominantly जब भी अपने works लिखेंगी हम लोग को वहाँ के पेड़ पौधे जो वनस्पति है उन सब चीजों के बारे में we get to have an idea reading her pieces of poetry, right? So moving forward, a sheaf gleaned in French fields. This is an important work. This is also a previous year question which came in the match the following, right? It is a first collection, a volume of French poems that she and her sister Aru translated into English. So there was her sister Aru Dutt as well, Toru Dutt and Aru Dutt. She would pass away and in one of the poems, जो आगे चल के हम पढ़ेंगे, our Casuarina tree, we will see that when she is going to write, Toru Dutt is going to write that poem na, our Casuarina tree, she will try to remember things from her past. How she used to play with, अपने siblings के साथ कैसे खेलती थी वो एक Casuarina tree के अंदर, right? So, next we have the poem Sita. See, in this poem, Toru Dutt presents a poignant retelling of the Ramayana from Sita's perspective. तो अगर हम देखें आजकल के टाइम पे there are many books which are coming which are telling us about Mahabharata from Draupadi's point of view, right? We see these things, and this thing becomes important. These things have been prevalent aaj ke time pe, but just imagine how during those times, Toru Dutt was also trying to make sure कि वो एक अलग perspective दे. So, Sita ne, what she would have felt when they both went, Lord Ram and Sita दोनों साथ में बनवास में चले जाते हैं, what hardships she had to go through, that is what is penned down in the beautiful poem Sita. Through the voice of Sita, she explores the theme of love, devotion and sacrifice that must come. क्योंकि she also, is the one जो अग्नि परीक्षा देती हैं, she goes through all those phases in her life and eventually attain the reunion अपने husband Lord Ram के साथ, right? She portrays Sita as a complex and a resilient character, emphasizing her unwavering loyalty and inner strength. कि जिनकी अंदर की strength जो है, which is very much important, and how her loyalty, कितनी, she is so much loyal to her husband even if when she was captured by Ravan, right? She maintains that loyalty ka sense apne andar. It also delves into the societal expectations placed upon women and the challenges faced by women in patriarchal societies. Now, when I try to give you a perspective here, you see that feminism as a movement, it had come in today's time only. But the British people, they were trying to be the ones who were very much, moving forward progressively. And when I talk about that influence हमें Indian literature में देखने के लिए मिलता है क्योंकि Britishers were there in India during these times, right? Because हम लोग को तो independence 1947 में मिला था, correct? So we see that before those time periods only, the Britishers who were staying here, who were living here in India, they were having some sort of influence. And this makes this particular work much more important because Toru Dutt यहाँ पे एक progressive writer की तरह बोल रही हैं. She understands that what hardships a female goes through, चाहे उसकी marital life हो, what are the societal expectations, because the society expects us to behave in a certain manner, right? प्रतिव्रता होना है, भाई के साथ अच्छे से रहना है, all these things that the women face. So what is expected of them, what are the challenges that they face and how the challenges were faced by, goddess Sita, वो भी दिखाया गया है. Dutt's use of vivid imagery and lyrical language helps to evoke empathy and deepen the emotional impact of the poem. We also would, try to see, if I try to talk about her using Indian, हमने अभी पिछली slide में पढ़ा ना, that she mixes Indian and Western traditions. We will see that form चाहे वो sonnet लेंगी, which is from the, a European counterpart. यूरोप से आया हुआ फॉर्म है पोम लिखने का, 14 लाइंस की पोम होती है where the entire end वाला couplet जो है it rhymes with one another, right? But we see even if that is written in the form of a sonnet, which is a European model, but उस sonnet की lines में जो themes, जो चीजें आती हैं, they are very much Indian in their nature, right? Moving forward, this is the poem. Let's just read several lines from here. 3 happy children in a darkened room. What do they gaze on with wide open eyes? A dense, dense forest where no sunbeam pries, and in its center a cleared spot. There bloom gigantic flowers on creepers that embrace the tall trees. There, in a quiet lucid lake, the white swans glide. There, whirring from the break, the peacock springs. There, herds of wild deer they race. There, patches gleam with yellow waving grain. तो गेहूं की बात करें, so you see the imagery that she is using. It's very much self-explanatory. अगर आप lines पढ़ते जा रहे हो, आपको दिख रहा है कि what is she trying to talk about. There, patches gleam with yellow waving grain. There, blue smoke from strange altars rises light. There dwells in peace the poet anchorite. But who is this fair lady? Not in vain she weeps. For lo, at every tear she sheds, tear from 3 pair of young eyes fall amain, and bowed in sorrow are the 3 young heads. It is an old, old story, and the lay which has evoked sad Sita from the past is by a mother sung. Right? It is hushed at last and melts the picture from their sight away, yet shall they dream of it until the day when shall those children by their mother's side gather, ah me, as erst at eventide. So we see that here she is trying to talk about Sita, she is trying to talk about love and Kush, who were the children of Lord Ram and Sita, right? So this is the particular poem that we have, and the imagery is beautiful. The next poem, which जिसका title आपके previous year question में पूछा गया है, that who is the writer जिन्होंने Casuarina tree लिखी है, it is written by none other than Toru Dutt. This poem reflects her longing for her childhood home and the memories associated with the beloved Casuarina tree. तो इनके आंगन में Casuarina tree होता है, right, where she plays with her siblings, and हर किसी की nostalgic memories होती हैं. Now at times when I go back home, I know I hear the ringing bell of the kulfi wala, and then suddenly I memorize. I am taken back to the days जब हमारी गली में गर्मियों के दिनों में कुल्फी वाले भैया आते थे, and then we used to go running, asking, giving him money and buying kulfis from him. She is also talking about that nostalgic past. She is also talking about how one person, अगर वो कई चीजें अपने past में छोड़ के आ जाता है, but eventually when you are again seeing the same thing, hearing the same bell, you feel like कि हाँ जी, that is something जो बहुत अच्छा time, हम कहते हैं ना कि हम उस time पे ऐसे रहते थे, right? So the nostalgic exploration of the interconnection between nature, time, personal identity. How as a person she has changed, how the nature now has changed, how the time has changed. She talks about कि जो पूरी life है, right? She talks about the passage of time, and she talks about the transient nature of life. What do we mean by transient? Transient मतलब जो हर दफा change होता रहता है, right? Life हमारी कभी भी एक तरीके से नहीं चलती. It keeps on changing. One day you are happy, the other day you are sad, or even in the other moment you are sad, right? So she talks about how life is ever changing. हम कहते हैं ना बचपन में whatever we feel, now we just have the nostalgic sense of going back to the past, right? The poems also serves as a metaphor for the loss of innocence and a bittersweet longing for the past, क्योंकि हमें नहीं पता होता, हम इतने बचपन में naive होते हैं, इतने भोले होते हैं, इतने innocent होते हैं. Why do we say that बच्चे भगवान का रूप होते हैं? Because they, most of the time, they are not aware of the cleverness of the people around. Several lines here. The giant in the garden stood with trunks and boughs extended wide and listened to the whispering tide. We will be reading the poem, of course. So we see the sensory details and metaphorical language. Sensory here means हमारी senses को evoke करने वाली, ऐसी description दी हुई है उन्होंने अपनी poem में, right? So this is the poem here. I'll increase the size a bit. So like a huge python winding round and round, the rugged trunk indented deep with scars. Up to its very summit, near the stars, a creeper climbs, in whose embraces bound no other tree could ever live. but gallantly the giant wears the scarf. She is just talking about the casuarina tree, how, it is being embraced, all these things. And the flowers are hung in crimson clusters, all the boughs among, whereon all they are gathered, bird and bee, and oft at nights the garden overflows. The garden overflows with one sweet song that seems to have no close. रात को एक ऐसा गाना बजता है जिसका अंत ही नहीं है. Sung darkling from our tree while men repose. When first my casement is wide open thrown at dawn, my eyes delighted on its fest. Sometimes and most in winter on its crest, a grey baboon sits statue-like alone, watching the sunrise, while on the lower boughs his puny offspring leaps about and play, and far and near kokilas. So you see, she is making sure that even if वो अपने language जो use कर रही हैं उसमें कुछ Indianness छोड़ जाएं. She is using the word kokilas, right? And far and near kokilas hail the day, and to their pastures went our sleepy cows, and in the shadow on the broad tank cast by that poor tree, so beautiful and vast, the water lilies, they spring like snow en masse, but not because of its magnificence, कि वो बड़ा है इस वजह से नहीं. Dear is the casuarina to my soul, beneath it we have played, through years may roll, O sweet companions, loved with love intense, for your sakes shall the tree be ever dear. She is talking about not because the tree is very large, इस वजह से मैं उसकी तारीफ नहीं कर रही हूँ कि पेड़ बहुत बड़ा है, but इसलिए I am talking about it because of the fact that मैंने अपना बचपन उस पेड़ के आसपास गुजारा है. Right? O sweet companions, loved with love intense, for your sakes shall the tree be ever dear. Blent with your images, it shall arise in memory. She is telling you कि ये इसकी याद जो है हमेशा मैं अपनी memory में रखूंगी. Till the hot tears blind my eyes. जब तक मेरी आंखें अंधी नहीं हो जाती तब तक I'll keep on remembering those days which I spent near that casuarina tree. What is that dirge-like murmur that I hear like the sea breaking on a shingle beach? It is the tree's lament, an airy speech that haply to the unknown land may reach. Now the tree is also crying because people now have changed. Life now has changed, right? Then we have another poem, the Lotus. It's a symbolically rich poem. Because why? Because of the fact that जब हम लोटस देखते हैं, even though we see कि एक लोटस जो होता है, कमल का फूल जो होता है, वो कीचड़ में उगता है. So whatever life throws on you, you should be the one person who should be blooming. That is why I am saying that this particular poem is symbolic in its nature. She uses the lotus, right, as a journey of the soul towards awakening. कि हम लोग सब अपनी life में कभी ना कभी spiritually we get awakened, right? Spiritual enlightenment and the quest for transcendence. यहाँ से मोक्ष की प्राप्ति करना, उस चीज की बात करी गई है. The poem juxtaposes the beauty and the purity of the lotus with the murky waters from which it emerges. So even if life will keep on throwing things at you which might not favor you, you should keep, you should be the one who should always and always keep on rising and blooming as does the lotus in murky waters. राइट तो अगर हम कीचड़ की बात करते हैं, कीचड़ में लोटस को कोई फर्क नहीं होता कि उसके आसपास में क्या है, बट इट कीप्स ऑन ब्लूमिंग. यू शुड बी लाइक दैट, राइट. हर इमेजरी एंड सिंबोलिज्म क्रिएट अ सेंस ऑफ एथीरियल ब्यूटी, ब्यूटीफुल जो रियल ही नहीं लगती ऐसी ब्यूटी, एंड एलिवेट द पोम टू अ मेटाफिजिकल रेल. लेट्स जस्ट रीड द पोम नाउ. Love came to Flora asking for a flower that would of flowers be undisputed queen. The lily and the rose long had been rivals for that high honor. Bards of power had sung their claims. The rose can never tower like the pale lily with her Juno mien. But is the lily lovelier? Thus between flower factions rang the strife in Psyche's bower. Give me a flower, delicious as the rose and stately as the lily in her pride. But of what color? Rose red. Love first chose, then prayed. No, lily white or both provide. And Flora gave the lotus, rose red dyed, and lily white, the queenliest flower that blows. So it talks about कि रोज भी फूलों का राजा नहीं है, लिली भी चाहे white है सफेद है वो भी फूलों की राजा नहीं बन सकती, just because of the fact that they bloom in a in an environment which is not full of adversity. But if we try to talk about a lotus now, because of the adversity that it has faced as well, it keeps on blooming, right? So we see that her verses are the ones which talk about the beauty of nature. हमने अभी 3-4 poems करी, उसमें हमने देखा that how her imagery is evoked, right? Human emotions. If you try to read the casuarina tree, our casuarina tree, you see that how we are also taken back to our childhood memories कि अच्छा मैं बचपन में गर्मियों में ये करते थे हम लोग, right? All these things winters में मम्मा लोग के साथ we all used to sit, right, at the terrace. All these things, correct? So human emotions which she through her experience उन्होंने pen down करे हैं, they are universal for all, right? And she also talks about the Indian heritage, right? She continues to captivate readers with her usage of imagery, the poems that are there. And of course, she is an important writer when it comes to your UGC NET English Literature Paper 2 की preparation. I'll see you guys in another video. Thank you so much and have a good day. Bye-bye.